The narrative flipped almost overnight. What had been widely accepted as a quiet breakup suddenly looked far less convincing, and the cracks in the story became impossible to ignore. Jamie Dornan and Amelia Warner were supposed to be over, yet their actions kept telling a different story. The more closely people looked, the less the breakup made sense. The original rumor spread quickly because it fit a familiar pattern. Long marriages in the public eye often end without drama, wrapped in silence and mutual respect. When neither Jamie nor Amelia rushed to deny the reports, many assumed the separation was real. Silence, as usual, was taken as confirmation. But silence can also be strategy. In the weeks that followed, observers began noticing details that didn't align with a true split. There were no signs of emotional distance, no visible reshuffling of daily life, and no abrupt changes typically associated with separation. Instead, everything appeared oddly consistent. What first raised eyebrows were their movements. Despite rumors of living apart, their schedules remained strangely synchronized. Trips that were supposedly solo overlapped in ways that felt more coordinated than coincidental. For a couple rumored to be done, their logistical closeness felt unusually intact. Then came the subtle sightings. Not red carpet appearances or paparazzi chaos, but quiet moments reported by witnesses in controlled environments. The kind of interactions that don't happen when two people are truly disentangling their lives. These were not staged moments, but everyday behaviors that suggested continuity rather than distance. Even more telling was what didn't happen. There were no symbolic gestures of separation, no public reframing of identity, no attempts to redefine themselves as individuals rather than a unit. In celebrity breakups, these signals often appear quickly. Their absence here was striking. Fans began comparing this situation to past, confirmed separations in Hollywood. The difference was clear. Real breakups leave traces, emotional or practical, that ripple outward. This one left almost none. Instead, it felt like a pause in visibility rather than a fracture in connection. Industry insiders quietly questioned the narrative as well. Some suggested the breakup label may have been a convenient simplification for a more complex reality. Others hinted at intentional distance from public scrutiny rather than from each other. When privacy is the goal, misdirection can be effective. The timing also mattered. The rumors surfaced during a period of heightened attention, when speculation was already peaking. Allowing the breakup story to circulate may have diffused pressure rather than intensified it. In that context, silence becomes a form of control, not avoidance. What ultimately fueled doubt was the consistency of their behavior. There was no oscillation between closeness and distance, no confusion in how they presented themselves privately. Everything pointed to stability rather than rupture. Stability, in this case, contradicted the headline. As these observations accumulated, the narrative began to collapse under its own weight. If the breakup were real, it would have changed something fundamental. Instead, life appeared to continue uninterrupted. The story people believed no longer matched the evidence they were seeing. This is where the idea of a fake breakup gained traction. Not fake in a malicious sense, but as an incomplete or misleading version of the truth. A story allowed to exist because it served a purpose, not because it reflected reality. In Hollywood, perception often travels faster than facts. By the time fans started connecting these dots, the question was no longer whether the breakup happened. It was why the idea was allowed to persist in the first place. When actions contradict words, or in this case rumors, actions tend to win. And here, the actions suggested one thing clearly. It wasn't over at all. As scrutiny deepened, attention shifted from surface details to motivation. If the breakup narrative did not align with reality, then its existence demanded explanation. Those close to Jamie Dornan and Amelia Warner suggest the answer lies not in deception, but in protection. When privacy becomes fragile, distance on paper can be safer than proximity in public. For couples navigating intense attention, perception management often replaces transparency. Allowing a breakup story to circulate can immediately lower scrutiny, redirecting curiosity elsewhere. The public tends to lose interest once a narrative feels resolved. In that sense, the rumor functioned like a pressure valve. Importantly, neither Jamie nor Amelia confirmed the split in their own words. They did not issue statements, grant interviews, or frame the story as closure. The narrative lived entirely in third-party reporting and assumption. That absence of ownership left room for ambiguity to persist. Behind the scenes, friends describe a deliberate narrowing of exposure rather than a rupture. Family routines remained intact, and long-term plans showed no signs of being dismantled. These are not the behaviors of two people disentangling shared lives. They are the behaviors of people insulating them. The decision to stay silent was reportedly mutual. Silence, in this context, was not avoidance but alignment. When both parties choose restraint, speculation fills the vacuum but rarely penetrates the truth. The result is distance without disconnection. Another factor often overlooked is timing. The rumor emerged during a phase when external narratives around Jamie were intensifying. Introducing a breakup storyline diluted focus, spreading attention across multiple threads. In a media ecosystem driven by novelty, fragmentation reduces pressure. Critically, the consistency of their private conduct never wavered. There were no conflicting signals, no contradictory leaks, no emotional volatility surfacing in public spaces. Stability persisted beneath the noise. That steadiness undermined the idea of a genuine separation. Fans who initially accepted the breakup began reassessing their assumptions. The absence of emotional fallout was difficult to ignore. Real endings leave residue, changes in tone, posture, or presence. Here, the residue was missing. Media analysts noted how quickly the story lost momentum without reinforcement. Breakups that are real tend to generate follow-up narratives, even when handled quietly. This one stalled almost immediately. Stagnation, in this case, suggested incompleteness. As questions grew louder, the phrase, "not over," gained traction for a reason. It captured the mismatch between headline and behavior. Not over does not require proof, it requires consistency. And consistency was exactly what observers kept seeing. There is also a broader lesson embedded in this episode. Public relationships are often judged by announcements rather than patterns. Yet patterns are harder to fake and slower to change. In this case, patterns pointed in one direction, while headlines pointed in another. Those closest to the couple emphasize that privacy is not secrecy. It is a boundary drawn to preserve normalcy, especially when family is involved. Allowing a simplified narrative to circulate can be a pragmatic compromise. It trades accuracy for peace. Over time, the rumor became less a fact and more a reference point. People stopped asking when the breakup happened and started asking whether it happened at all. That shift matters. It reflects the power of observation over assumption. Ultimately, what proves the breakup was fake is not a single reveal or dramatic confirmation. It is the absence of evidence where evidence should exist. Life did not reorganize itself around an ending. It continued as though nothing had ended. If there is a takeaway, it is this: endings announce themselves through change. When change fails to appear, the ending may be illusory. In the case of Jamie and Amelia, the illusion held briefly, then unraveled. As attention moves on, the truth remains understated and intact. Some stories persist because they are true. Others persist because they are useful. This one endured only until behavior exposed its limits. And once that happened, the conclusion felt unavoidable. It wasn't over, because it never truly ended.